this is Brittany here with your art fill of the week, and today I'm going to show you some really simple holiday doodles, I guess, or little tiny drawings that you can maybe put in a journal or maybe on a personal card to somebody. I kind of doodled some already for my 4 ideas. So let's go ahead and get our pencils and paper and get started. So I went ahead and separated my paper into 4 since we're doing 4 little doodles. And let's go ahead and get started on that mug. Okay, so first we're gonna start with a curved line, kind of like that, kind of like a smile. And then we're gonna do, well, I guess basically a frown on the other side. Make it kind of like an eyeball shape or a seed. And then from this, we're gonna go on either side and draw a straight line down. And you can either make your mug short like this or make it longer. Whatever size mug you think you want to do. And then that bottom, we just do our smile again to the other side. So that's our cup part. And then we're gonna pretend like it's Valentine's Day and draw a half heart. And then to make it more three-dimensional, we're gonna do another half heart, kind of parallel to what we did. So there, it looks like you can actually grip that handle. And then if you want to put, like, there's some coffee or cocoa or something inside, then we do our frown a little bit smaller in there. And then you'll color this part in. Or if you want to put little marshmallows, you can add little marshmallow shapes just floating here on top. And basically just drawing cylinders, kind of like we did for our mug, just smaller in there. If you want to add some marshmallows. And then to make it look steamy, you just kind of draw some lines like this. Some squiggle lines. So there's our steamy cup of hot cocoa. And then if you want to add a design on the mug, I'll show you how to do a Christmas tree. You just want to do a small triangle, a little bit larger triangle, and then an even larger triangle. That's a super simple Christmas tree design. And then when you color it, you can add the little dots of color across, which I'll show you when I actually color mine. Now moving on to our second doodle, we're going to do a stocking. So go ahead, it'll be similar to this, but it'll be at an angle. So go ahead and mark maybe where just a dot where you have your stocking hanging. And then from that dot, draw that smile shape down. And then just like the mug, we're going to do our frown. And then from this point, instead of drawing a straight line down, we're going to kind of do a C, Same on this side, but a backwards C. And then we're gonna kind of make it a couple more C shapes and make it kind of a fluffy stocking. And then from here we can do our straight line. Straight line. And then a larger C. We're gonna bring it out here and around. And then continue that line and then another curve up to this. And then, of course, you can do your own design on your stocking. But I'll make it simple and I'll just do some zigzags across. And then I can color. When I color, I can alternate my red and green. And I'm actually gonna go ahead, I'm gonna draw like a line here, like that's what the stocking is being hung on. And this part will be colored in. And then draw a second one over here, so if you want to re-watch how I drew them. It's almost like a daisy, if you want to think of it like that too. I'm going over my line. I'll fix that later. There. Now we got two stockings right there. And then our third design, I'm going to show you how to draw a bow on top of a present. So the bow will be like the most complex of this one. So start with a small circle. And then we're going to kind of remember our Valentine's Day again and do a heart off of each side. We're mixing some holidays. And then draw a straight line up from here on either side. And then straight line down. And then connect those. And then you'll draw a straight line ribbon. Two lines up like that. And then to draw the little ribbons hanging off, come from our middle circle here, do a squiggle like that. Same thing on this side. Squiggle off. And then you're going to follow the squiggle you just did. So because it went up, we also go up and then down. Same over here. Since we went up, we go up and then down. And then you do your V at the bottom. And that's an easy way to draw a present. Now our fourth and final easy drawing will be a Santa hat. And we're going to start with do like a little cloud at the bottom. Make it like a longer cloud instead of like a fat cloud. Kind of like this. Do our little cloud for the fluff. And then we'll go to this side. Draw a line up like that. Draw these very light because we'll erase part of it later. Same thing, we'll meet up with that. And then from this point, we're going to curve like that. And then meet on this side and curve out to meet it. And then you'll do another little cloud shape at the end. And then you'll erase this part. And there's our Santa hat. I'm gonna go ahead and color all of mine. If you wanna color along with me and listen to some holiday, Christmassy music with me. Otherwise, thank you for watching this far in the video. Please give it a like so other people can find it if this helped you out with drawing some easy holiday designs. And thank you for being here. Hello everyone, I am Brittany here with your art film of the week, and this week I am going to show you how to draw a nativity scene kind of in two different ways. The first way will be very simple, and then the second one will be slightly more complicated and more a closer up front view of the nativity. So let's get our pencils and get started. First, let's start with our simple design. You may need a ruler, so I'm gonna get mine out just to show you, because we have those nice straight lines with the nativity. So let's find our center point. Roundabouts, mine is here. So I'm gonna draw a line down from there for my first part of my roof, and then the same mirrored onto the other side. Try to get that slope about the same with my ruler. Okay, there's our roof. And if you want to leave it just a straight line like that, you can, but I'm gonna draw that edge right there and right here, and then meet it back up to the center. So we have our roof, and then a little bit in, probably about right here, I'm gonna draw a line down as straight as I can. Same thing, we're gonna go in about here, and then I'll draw another straight line. And then same thing, if you want to make it a little wider like your roof, you just go on the other side, parallel to that other line. Okay, there we have our simple outline of our roof and two sides of our stable. And then let's draw some circles for Mary and Joseph's head. So we're gonna kind of go off these sides and draw two circles to mark where Mary and Joseph will be, and maybe draw Mary's a little lower than Joseph's, because we're gonna draw Joseph standing off while Mary is tending to Jesus, maybe kneeling. So draw your two circles for their heads. And then let's do some ovals for their body. So just underneath, two ovals, and since Joseph is standing, his oval is going to be a lot longer. And then we can connect those two where their neck would be. And then off of these ovals we just drew, we're going to draw some tiny circles for where their hands are going to be in that prayer position. And since both of them will be wearing robes, we don't have to super worry about anatomy with them. So we're gonna come down from our oval and just make kind of this. I'm not really placing my lines perfectly, but just kind of wavy lines. And then I'm gonna kind of come up at an angle here because she's gonna be kneeling. So we're just doing the wavy lines for the bottom of that robe. And then Mary will have a headpiece. So her eyes would probably be right here if you want to make a dot just for reference. And then I'm just drawing a little squiggle kind of around that. And then bringing up around where we drew that circle, because when you have something on someone's head, it's not going to be directly like on their skull. It's going to sit kind of higher than what you drew. So we're going to kind of come around her head shape, a little bit of a circle, and bring it down, and then kind of draw a line to cut it off there. And I'll show you what lines you want to erase in a second. But now, since her arm is, if you want to draw these lines lightly, you can. Her arm is technically like this, but when you have a robe, you're going to kind of have some fabric laying over that arm. So it's not going to be tight. So we're going to kind of come from her shoulder here and then connect there. But then here we kind of will have some draped fabric like this. Kind of just more of those wavy lines like we did down here. And bring it up to that robe. And then since her neck is here, we can kind of make a circle there for it coming out of that robe. And then since her headpiece is still here, we're going to kind of drape it over her shoulder like this. Do a squiggle out, and then squiggles like the robe over her shoulder. And before we move on to Joseph, actually there's more we have to do on Mary, but I'm going to show you what lines to erase. So this line right here that was part of our circle, you can erase because that's now her headpiece. Same with everything inside that headpiece. You can erase. And then this oval, we can erase the insides of that robe. Do kind of want this still because it determines where her robe ends. Now let's kind of bring out the chin of Mary. We're still going to make it simple and make it rounded. Fix that head covering a little. And then with her face, you don't have to fill in her face if you don't want to. You can leave it even simpler and not do her face. But her nose would be about right here. You just want to make like a C shape for her nose. And then 2 eyes, one about right here, 2 circles. And then just do a simple smile right under that. And then we'll do some pupils on those eyes. And then she looks weird because we don't have eyebrows yet. So let's add some eyebrows. And then I'm gonna add a line here just to make it more apparent that this is a sleeve of her robe. And then for her hand, we're gonna use this circle, but she's in a prayer pose, so we're gonna kind of make it almost like a Christmas light bulb shape. And then you don't have to add the fingers, but her fingers would technically be like this. So that's our simple Mary. Okay, so moving on to Joseph. Scooch my sketchbook over a little. So it's gonna be similar to how we did Mary, but Joseph is standing. So his robe will still kind of flow down like this. We can draw those lines lightly to make sure we know his arm and wrist and stuff will be right here, and technically you can kind of do a light line to, like, this is his shoulder and his arm is bent. But then his robe will kind of come down like this. And then draw those wavy lines down here. And then his robe, I'm going to kind of draw a curved line right there because that's like the sleeve hanging, and then a line down like this for that sleeve, and technically this would be like his inside of his sleeve. So then from there we can draw, our wavy. It's actually longer than that. We're gonna do a longer wavy to here since he's standing, and bring that up to his shoulder. Here, I'll erase some so I don't confuse you. So all this is going to be his big sleeve. Actually, we wouldn't really have to do the wavy if you don't want to. It's just this one single wave down here. And then it brings it up like this. And then his neck. Then we can already go ahead and make that hand shape like this if you want to. Just almost like a Christmas light bulb. Bring it up like that. So you're using that circle just on either side. And then he is a little bit more complicated because we need to do a beard. He doesn't have a head covering, but he does have a beard. So his ear is going to be, if you go from his neck, it's going to be about right here. So we'll go ahead and put that ear in because that helps figuring out where his face is. And his beard is going to be about right here. So we'll do like a C, an upside down C. And then he'll have a smile about right here. And his beard, we gotta make it coming off of his chin. So I'm gonna do a little point coming off of that chin and up like that. And then we gotta leave a space for his mouth, so we'll do another C on top of that mouth we drew for the mustache part. And then you gotta, it almost looks like an eyeball. You gotta do another curve because that's gonna be skin right here for his mouth. So there's our Joseph beard, and then his nose will be about right here, so you can go on top of his mustache and do just another little C shape for his nose. And either side, we're gonna put those eyes for circles for eyes. And for his hair, once again, it sits on top of his head, so we're gonna kind of do a little triangle there, some triangles for his bangs, and then it kind of swoops behind that ear, then some more triangle shapes and around his head like that. Add those pupils before I forget. And there's our Joseph. I'll erase some of the lines so you can see which ones we don't actually need anymore. I'm just drawing a line right here so you can tell that's his chin, otherwise he kind of loses his head into his neck. You don't want that. Now we gotta move on to the little trough with Jesus in it. I'm gonna get my ruler out again, and right between Mary and Joseph, draw a short straight line like that. Oop, that was a loud click. And then gonna use a geometry term, and we're gonna draw like a trapezoid. So a line down and another line down, and a line across for our trapezoid. And then to make it standing up, I'm gonna draw diagonal lines down like this on either side, just kind of towards that middle. So there's our trough. And then we're gonna draw a half circle right here for baby Jesus's head. And then a half oval for him being swaddled in that blanket. And since we don't see a lot of baby Jesus's face, his hair, if you want to put hair on him, I'm going to do some more of those triangle shapes for his hair. And then we can put his little smile about right here. And maybe sleeping eyes. So I'm going to put one eyeball would be there, and you wouldn't really see his other eye. And if you want to make his blanket look more like a blanket, you can just add some lines like this. Just some squiggles to make it look like it's wrapped around him. And then, because he's in a trough, we're going to draw some hay off the edges. So I'm going to draw a little curvy line. There's some hay off the side. At its feet, maybe too. It's almost more like a triangle curve, like a curved triangle almost. And you can even, if you want to cover some of that blanket, you can draw like little, maybe like mounds of hay sitting there next to his face. So that's our more simple how to draw of the nativity. I'm going to go ahead and color this if you want to also color yours along with me in the music. Okay, now this is our a little bit more complex nativity scene, so I'll probably have less words to describe the shapes that I'm drawing, but I'm gonna try to make it as beginner friendly as I can. So starting with 2 circles, towards the center of our page, we're going to draw Mary and Joseph kind of kneeling next to Jesus this time. We're almost going to create like a face. So if you want to think about it like that for now, you can. So basically 2 eyes or 2 circles. And then between these 2, there's going to be a line. And then a U shape. So we make like this very excited face. And then we gotta add those rectangles for where that manger stands up. And for their bodies, we're going to have them kneeling, so it's going to be kind of more of a short oval. And then we're gonna do like teardrop shapes kind of towards the center of their chest for their praying hands. And since they're kneeling, their robes kind of puddle on the ground like this. Just kind of all bunched up on the ground. So we make that kind of, it's almost like a ghost, a simple ghost shape almost. And then since her hands are right here in that prayer position, we can kind of draw a C shape off there. And her elbow would be about right here. So we can draw like a V for where her sleeve is sitting. And then a straight line down from there, but then because of where your thumb and wrist are, you're going to kind of have that curve right there because of how your hands are. There's a straight line, but then there's like a curve when you have your hands like this. So we're gonna do about the same with Joseph, but we made him a little, or at least for me, I made him facing more of the front. So I'm gonna draw a little V down from his hands. And then one sleeve is there and one sleeve is there. And you can kind of meet it up like that with like a V shape. And a curve up. And then his robes will also be puddled a little right here. His 2 knees will technically be right here. So you can kind of add your curve in there like that. And then it'll kind of puddle behind him based on where he's facing, because he's facing more pointed this way. So it'll kind of rest more behind him, whereas her robe, Mary's robe, is going to be more off to this side. Oh, we didn't draw necks for them. Well, let's make sure we put a neck in there. Like that. It'll kind of throw off your circle a little bit, but you can still use it as your base. So then just draw a smaller circle off of that neck using the top of the circle you drew. And then Mary, we have to put a head covering. So half her face is going to be covered anyway. So I'm going to draw just like a C shape and draw that head covering here. And I can use that circle and bring her head covering down like this. And over her shoulder. And her nose will be about right here. And a smile. And then her eyes. And don't forget those eyebrows, so it doesn't look strange. And that curve for where her robe ends on up her neck. And then for Joseph, let's draw our circle off of our neck. And we're gonna make sure he has his beard. So I'm gonna draw a C shape here and then bring it down to where however long you want the beard into a triangle. So most of his neck is covered. And then draw like a little circle or oval mostly right here for where his mouth is gonna sit, because you need still some space in between the mustache and the actual chin part, the beard. And then his nose will be about right here. And 2 eyes. And you'll see his ear, so his ear is about right here. And then drawing that hair, just some basic choppy triangles. And you still, his robe will end about right here, so you still kind of need that line. And then for baby Jesus, we're just gonna see like the top of his head right here. Still do him from the side. So still pretty simple, half circles, half oval. Hair, squiggle. And then a little eye, sleeping. That smile. And then we're gonna actually put like a little nose poking out there. And just bringing his hair more off of his head. And then let's do a couple animals. So right here, let's draw a little oval. And then another one here. Another one here. This is going to be our donkey. Just kind of resting there. Then you connect these two like this. So that's his snout. And then his ear is probably going to be about right here. So just sort of a teardrop shape for his ear there. And then we're going to bring his neck down to here. Down to that oval. And his eye will be right here, but we're going to draw him sleeping, so we're just going to do that for his eye. And his nostril will be about right here. And since he's kind of resting, almost kneeling in donkey pose, we're going to do this. And bring his feet kind of underneath him. And then draw a little bump right there. Kind of like if you've seen a cat loafed. That's kind of what we're going for. And then his back hoof will be about right here. Like that. Connect those two and then bring that body down and around. Then his tail we can kind of put right here, coming off like this. And then his donkey hair, just kind of wavy lines. If donkeys actually sit like this, I'm not sure, but that's our donkey. Then over here, let's add a sheep. It's going to be kind of in front of Mary. So I'm just going to draw almost like a cloud right here for our sheep. And then he's actually going to be standing up. So we'll add some feet. Just little rectangles. And he's going to be looking up. Like he's trying to steal that hay from that manger, the trough that Jesus is sitting in. His eye is going to be right here. Dry ear. And his mouth right there. And then his little nose. We'll just draw a line right there. So there's our sheep. And then we'll add some hay in here for that sheep trying to steal. Kind of like we did on the first one. Just some straw hanging out there. And that's our a little bit more difficult nativity scene. I'm gonna go ahead and outline first and then color in, which I can remove some of these lines that we covered over with our animals. So yes, you could draw in all those animals first and then draw in, but it's a little bit easier to see what you're, to visualize a little bit if you place things the way I showed you. until you get a little bit better at drawing, then you can kind of not have those guidelines in there as much. So we gotta get rid of just all those guidelines. If it helps, you can just draw in things a little bit darker and then go in and erase. But I'm gonna outline and then I'm gonna color. So you can stick around with me and color with me to some music. Hi, I'm Brittany here with your art fail of the day. Hello, today we'll be drawing a front door with a wreath on it, maybe something you can make some handmade Christmas cards or a fun Christmas decoration. You'll need a ruler for straight edges, a pencil, and maybe an eraser. And I'll be coloring mine with some watercolors, but you can color your front door in whatever medium you would like. So let's get to it. Alright, so first, let's make our large rectangle of our door. You can make it as big as you want it to be. Alright, step 1, rectangle towards the center of your page. And I'll be going off a reference that I will show on the screen. So next, before we do a Christmas wreath, we're gonna draw everything underneath, but draw this super lightly, and you can go back on with the lines that you'll need after we put the wreath over top. I'll be drawing a little bit darker just so it's easier for you guys to see the lines. Okay, so first I'm gonna do the top window from my reference. So I'm gonna go about maybe a fourth down, draw a straight line across, and then do that curve around, almost like a rainbow. And if you want yours to be more of a perfect half circle, you can use maybe like a small lid or a different like rounded object that you can just set right here and then trace if you really want a crisp line. Okay, and now we're gonna do like the little, I don't even know what they're called, but they're like the little fancy decoration divots in the door. So first I'm gonna kind of measure up with my window up here. Maybe go just a little bit down and draw a line. And still matching up, I'm gonna skip a space and draw another line down here to mark my, because there's gonna be a group of 4 rectangles that we're gonna draw. Then gonna go, let's see, the center is about right here. So we're going to leave a space in the center, draw a line over like that. Probably if you want to measure like where the middle of your half cylinder is. And we'll do the same for here. We're just making tinier rectangles is all we're doing. Then I can use this. See where I did that line a little bit too long. Just tiny rectangles, 4 of them. This one I might actually bring down a little longer. And while we're down here, I'm gonna use the same ruler spot and go maybe ½ an inch over. I know I have a weird ruler It's one of the triangle rulers that has a bunch of different measurement types on it, so mine's a little bit weird, but you can probably get a better measurement out of a real ruler. This is just all I had with me today. Then I'll go up here, match this, and bring it about a ½ an inch over. We're just making small rectangles, 4 of them. Okay. Go ahead and pause the video if you need a little bit more time to do that part. Okay, now let's do the little kind of fancy doorknob. So I'm just gonna do like a rectangle. That is not a rectangle. Kind of an oval shape right here, and then draw a circle in the middle. It kind of looks like an eyeball if you turn it this way, so if you want to turn it that way and just draw an eyeball looking thing, that helps. And then the actual handle, I'm gonna do kind of like a triangle on the top, and then bring it around like this, and then do a handle. It's kind of a long oval shape, and then another small circle right here. It's a little low on the door, actually. So I'm going to show you that again. We're going to do it a little bit higher this time. Do the base, and then the handle needs to be skinnier. So it's almost kind of like a bone shape if you want to do that with the handle, and then add kind of a rounded triangle up there. Okay, now we can do our wreath. I'm not going to fully follow this image that I pulled up to kind of reference from. We're going to do an actual like leafy holly looking wreath instead of the bauble one, the ornament bauble. Okay, so I'm going to draw 2 lines down from my center. That's the wreath holder. You can use your straight edge for this as well. And then I'm going to draw a circle over this. Now you can use different lids and stuff if you want to get the right size lid or something, or if you have like a rounded bottle base or just something rounded that you can trace, you can. Otherwise you can just eyeball it and draw a circle. So there's the outside circle of my wreath. We'll kind of make a donut. So then draw another smaller circle in the center. Draw that really lightly. Okay, now that we have our donut of our wreath, I'm going to kind of erase some of these lines so that we know our full outline of this wreath. So you erase some of your door stuff that you did so that it's actually overlapping the door. Okay, so we have our donut that we're going to turn into our wreath. Instead of having this sharp circle, we're going to kind of add a few little there's no set way I'm really doing this. I'm kind of just eyeballing little tufts that I want to stick out. It's just kind of making little frayed lines almost. Right, I'm just doing short little lines off of it. Kind of small triangles almost. Almost like a fringe. Little bumps. Then I'm gonna do another kind of a layer of another circle, just a few lines. I'm doing just like little tiny dashed lines almost, but doing them more in a triangular shape, if that makes sense. Kind of like a fringe, but more in a concise, like this is where a leaf kind of is, just giving you the idea that a leaf is there. Do these lines a little bit light too in case you need to erase them, because we're going to add like a bow onto this, or if you want to add little baubles onto your wreath. You can also just kind of peck little lines with your pencil to give it some texture, like this. Just little pecks of line. Okay, and then we're gonna kind of give some shape to this middle by doing the same thing we did on the edge, where it's just kind of like a little bit of fringe. Just kind of jaggedy lines is what I did. Okay, now let's do a bow. So you're going to start by making a circle, and you can make this bow anywhere you want to on the wreath that you just drew. And then kind of like a rounded triangle off of it. So we're going to draw a line off like this. Another rounded kind of line off like this. And then we're going to connect them like it's a triangle, almost like a gumdrop shape. Same thing for the other side, kind of bring out a line and another line and then meet them. Now all this stuff right here is going to be erased, and in here to do the ribbon down, we're going to come about right a little bit center of our bow, draw a line down, then go to the center here, kind of curve that line over but bring it down, and then it's just a triangle, straight lines up and down. Then same for this side, go about right here. Actually, we'll start from the center, that might be easier. So do kind of mirror the other side and do a curved line out. And then it's a little past center, draw a curved line out, and then we do that triangle to make the bow edges. Then you can erase everything that's in the center of that. So everything here, don't have a good small eraser. So if you want to wait to do your wreath leaves texture that we did before, that's fine. I'm having to erase mine now. Okay, gotta fix some of my lines. There's our bow. You don't have to draw that big of a bow. I did draw a big bow, but you can draw either a ton of smaller bows all over. Just figure out what you want to do. That's just how you can draw a bow. And then if you want to add like a little baubles in there, you can just draw little circles. Or if you want the little holly looking berries, you can just draw smaller circles in there. Or when you color it later, you can just add little circles of red. And you can even have some of your baubles kind of hanging off, overlapping, just a bunch of little circles where you think looks nice. And of course you'll have to erase in the centers there. And yeah, so that's a quick video on how you can draw like a front door with a wreath on it, and maybe you can make some Christmas cards out of that. And I'm gonna go ahead and paint mine with some watercolor. So I hope this helped you out. If you want to leave the video now, please remember to leave a like if this helped you out, and share it with your friends, and subscribe for more videos like this. And I'm gonna go ahead and paint. If you want to paint or color along with me till the end of the video, you are welcome to. Hi, I'm Brittany, here with your art fail of the day. Alright, today guys, I'm going to show you how to paint a Christmas tree that's outdoors, not the one that's in your house right now, but one with snow covering and Christmas lights, kind of like your neighborhood pine tree decorated for Christmas. And you will need for this your acrylic paints, a green, like a dark green, white for the snow, and then I have red out right now, but any colors that you want to be the decorations of your trees, like the little lights, if you want like a multicolor light look or blue lights, whatever color lights you want, get those paints out. I use a lot of water usually when I'm using acrylic paint, so if you also want a little cup of water, that'll help out for some blending probably. Okay, let's get started. Alright, so take a little bit of green on your brush. We're gonna do one large triangle on our paper. A large skinny triangle. So we'll do a line like that. And go back up to the top. Do another line down like that. And connect those two at the bottom. Very simple triangle. Probably a simple shape that you've made for a lot of Christmas trees. And we're gonna fill this in. It's okay if you go a little bit outside the triangle. We're gonna do branches later anyway, so if you mess up keeping it in the lines, that's fine. It'll be your branch later. Okay, we have our green triangle. Now we gotta make the layers of our tree. So we're gonna make our branches now. So kind of just come out like that. It doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line. I just kind of dab some paint down. There's not really a spot that you need to put this line down, just kind of eyeball where you might think it looks good. See how I'm kind of creating some layers? So you do want to leave a little bit of space in between these lines that you're jutting off of your tree. Let's do one at the top here. I'm kind of mostly dabbing at first where I want that line to go and then kind of thickening it. And adding a little bit like thinner lines a little bit too. And we're gonna have some branches sticking up here. If you've ever looked at your Christmas tree, there's some just like sticking up like that. And this kind of comes to more of a thinner point up here at the top of our triangle. Right, that's one side of our tree branches. You can kind of darken parts of the triangle that you painted before. Or fill in any white spots that appeared after the paint is drying. Right. So you see how that one side is good. Now we're going to the other side and doing the same thing. Just some lines off. Create the branches. Different sizes too. We're gonna basically try to get rid of that straight line. Kind of hide it with these branches coming off. And I'll do another one sticking up in the air. Get your tree branches to how you like them. If you need to make your triangle a little bigger because you messed up a little bit, that's fine. Just hopefully you left a little space on your page. Right, so I could, basically what I'm saying is I could, if I say like I didn't like these branches, I could bring my triangle down and out and making my tree thicker and then start over with my branches to make them how I want them to be. I'm just using my extra paint to fill in. Kind of adjust my other side a little bit. Okay. let your tree completely dry. Not just a little bit tacky, completely dry before we do the next step. Okay, next step, you will need your white paint. We're gonna do the snow-covered branches next. So get some paint on your brush. Now, you see where you did your lines off the sides? We're gonna sort of follow those. So start from one side and then kind of not necessarily a straight line. We're just kind of blotching some paint all the way across to the other side, to our other branch on the other end. And so if you see here, I kind of made it sort of look like there is a branch sticking out towards us right here. So that's the reason for not doing like a straight line across. We're just kind of doing different blotchy shapes all the way across. And if you can see, I kind of got some green in mine because I did not fully wait for things to dry. So I'll probably have to go over with another coat of white. But that's okay, I'll just wait for things to dry and be patient. So I'm gonna kind of continue that method in the places that I feel like this snow would be settling on. And if you see the motion of my paintbrush, I'm kind of holding it upright and using this edge, the straightened edge, to blotch. So it kind of follows like a branch pattern. And then carrying it over to our other branch like that. Now if I had painted the background first, like dark blue for the dark sky, you probably would be able to see this snow on the edges more. But since I'm just kind of showing you how to do this, I wasn't going to do a background. But if you want a background, be sure to do your background color first and then do this, painting the tree over that once that's dry. So we're going to continue this down our branches, and then I'll go back up to the top and kind of show you how I'm going to do those. And you can kind of do this where you fill in a whole area, like the snow super settled on that side, so there's a little bit extra. And then you can also do it where you do maybe like halfway like that. so there's a little less snow on that part. And you see how some areas I just kind of leave it when I run out of paint, that it's a little less white. It kind of gives that a different effect of the snow, being a little less snow there, and then the heavier snow is the darker white. It's all about how much paint you put on your brush. So I'm gonna do over here kind of that same thing where there's a lot of heavy snow on this side. And then do a thinner line across. And like I said, you can do this half line, and even like from this line you could skip over a little bit and maybe like do a little bit right here. Because of the way the branches stick out, some branches are gonna have snow and some won't because they're more inner branches. So it'll kind of give that same effect, that like a branch here is sticking out further to get snow on it than the ones inside here, if that makes sense to you. Now towards the bottom we're gonna have mostly dark because a lot of this is gonna be underneath. Underneath shadow, and also like the snow isn't gonna fall under the tree like directly. Because most of it is gonna be on like the ground next to it, which again, if I had a background, we could do snow on the ground next to it. So I'm gonna make it look like there's snow right here, so we don't have our triangle as much. Alright, so now the top. Get some white paint, and we're gonna follow the top of this down like that, because when the snow is falling, it's falling from this direction, so only that side of the branch is going to have snow on it. And then we can kind of do our snow across right here. And then the top of this one, top of this one. Okay, and I'm not going to touch up here because I'm going to put the Christmas topper, the star on the top. So, if you only wanted to paint an outdoor tree with snow on it, this is your stopping point. Thank you for watching and painting with me. Please like this video if it helped you. And everyone else, if you're going to continue on to decorate it, we need to stop and let our snow dry completely. Be patient, go walk away, get some water, stretch, and then come back and we'll do the final step. Okay, so we're gonna do Christmas lights on our tree and our star tree topper. I picked out the colors yellow, blue, and red. I'm probably gonna mix the yellow and blue together to make a light green light mixed in there. But use whatever colors you want to make your Christmas lights on your tree. And I'll show you a technique of how to make it kind of look a little bit like it's glowing. So I'm gonna take my tinier paintbrush, because we're just gonna do the little dots basically. So I'll show you with the red. We're gonna do just some dots. Need a little bit bigger dot. Okay. Dot. Just kind of randomly on your tree. I do kind of follow the branches still. It's not completely random because when you string lights, you're stringing them across those branches, so they're gonna be sort of uniform in that sense, but as far as like the different colors, you're probably gonna stagger them based on the string of lights that you're doing. So like if I was doing straight red lights, I would just do a dots all the way across kind of thing, but I want to fit in my other colors, so I'm kind of leaving spaces. And I'm noticing for me I messed up a little bit right here by putting like 3 in a row so close instead of staggering them out, but sometimes I guess that happens when you string Christmas lights on stuff. Depends on how long your string of lights is and if you have to connect it to another string of lights because it just wasn't long enough. I'll probably do one more color and then go back and show you the shiny light technique on the red ones to give them time to dry. I don't want to do too many towards the bottom. Go back up here. Okay, I'm gonna move on to my next color. I'll do yellow. If you have a little bit more like watery acrylic paints, you might have to dab for either longer or come back and fill in that circle, because I don't know if you can notice with mine, but it's not quite thick enough that you can, it's just straight yellow, which it might be fine because we're gonna add another dot for our light shining technique. We're basically gonna mix white with whatever color that light is. Add a very light dot in the center. And your lights don't have to be dry, but it'll probably work a little bit better if they are dry. Okay, now I'll show you what we're doing to make our red light shine. So I'm gonna take a little bit of red. We're gonna use mostly white and make that more of like a pink. Even more white, like it's gonna be way more white than whatever color the light is. So I'm going to add a dot. Right, they look a little like they're glowing and shining already. And you can actually make them look a little more shiny by adding a tiny dot of white as well after this pink, or your lightened version of, oops, that's yellow, lightened version of whatever light color you choose. So I'm just going back around, adding a little dot or a little bit more of pink to each of these red lights, like they're shining a little bit. It just gives them a little bit of a look that they're glowing. So then after this, I could go in with a little dab of white, and that makes them seem like it's the tiniest dot. I don't even think you can see it unless I zoomed in a ton. I'm just doing a little tiny dot on top of that, and it makes it look just as like slightly bit more twinkly. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to, and like that it looks plenty twinkly by just having a little bit lighter of that color on it, because I don't want to get too crazy with this white either. Like some of them I don't even want to do it on. It's just certain ones are a little bit more twinkly. Okay, then I'll mix a little bit of lighter yellow. And do the same thing with my yellow lights, which will help when some of it didn't fill in all the way to begin with. I'll just add in that roundness with my lighter twinkle color. And that's basically the gist of those twinkle lights. So I'm gonna go ahead and go up to the top and do that star topper. Get about this size brush, might be a little bit easier. Okay, so we'll take our yellow again and make a 5-point star. So I'm doing triangle, exit across, bring it this way, and then down back that way. Not the best star, but there we go. Straighten out its corners a little. There's our star. I kind of ran out of room at this top too. And once again, if you want to make that look like it's glowing, we'll do the same lighter yellow and just add a little bit to that center. Of course, it's still wet, so I have to mix a little bit more to make it stand out. There we go. Or just, since it's still wet, you could just do a little bit of white in the center. And do some stark white. Make it a little shinier. Did almost like its own 5-point star in the center. Okay, and to finish it off, I'm going to do my blue lights and my green lights. The same technique. fill in the rest of my tree. I'm gonna cut to some music and speed this up a little bit. And you can do your dots along with me to some Christmassy sounding music. Thank you so much for painting along with me. I hope you had fun learning how to paint this Christmas tree. If you did, please give this video a like and subscribe for more content like this. And I hope you have happy holidays and a wonderful new year.